beers, bikes, and public transport. All that and more coming up. Hey guys, I'm Tim, and this is Board Game Rundown, and today we are doing a review of Belgian Beers Race Dice. This was sent to us for review, and I'm grateful for that. I have never played the original regular version of Belgian Beers Race when that came out. I have friends that did. It sounds amazing. I'd love to play it. But when I saw the opportunity to check this guy out, I couldn't pass it up. I thought it just, again, I like the idea and it sounds really fun. Because what you're trying to do is get all around Belgium and hit as many different kinds of breweries as you can and hit these specialty breweries and all that stuff. And then there's options you can do at those breweries where you can buy a bottle or you can just taste a beer. And then as you're checking stuff off, the more beer you have or the bottles you're carrying, it can encumber your traveling. So you're going to choose like less die to help you pop around. So, you know, that's basically the goal of the game is somebody needs to hit one of each of the common goals and then race back to the grand place. And when you get there, everybody else basically has a turn, well, up to 3 turns to get back. So when somebody comes back, if they're the first one or they make it back in the same turn that the first person did, you're gonna get the golds. You get like 20 points. If the next turn you get 10 points, and then the third turn you can get 5 points if you can get back. And if you don't make it back, you're gonna take -5 points for every segment of road that you are away. So you've got to really start trying to make it back. And I could see hanging out there, right? Hanging out, trying to hit some of those goals. Maybe it'll be worth offsetting the points. So in this, you've got 3 ways to travel around. You've got your bike, you've got public transportation, and you've got hitchhiking. And those are represented by the different colors of die. So the red ones are for biking, the yellow are your public transportation, and then the black ones are hitchhiking. The funny thing about the black ones is they've also got a thumb with like an X on them, and that means nobody picked you up. The first player is going to roll all the dice, cast them into the box, and they're going to pick 2 of the dice to use. Now, they have to pick the same mode of transportation. So you can't take a red and a yellow. You're going to take, because you're just going the way you're going. You're either riding your bike, you're taking public transportation, or you're hitchhiking. Now, the thing is you want to be eco-friendly too. So any of your unused, basically, dice, you are going to get penalized for that because you're being bad for the environment. But what you're going to do is, like, if I choose 2 2s, that means I'm biking, and that means I can bike basically up to 4. And you'll see on the little map there's different distances between the breweries. So if there was 4, you could let's just say let's see, because the highest the bike can go. Let's say I took a car here. So there's 4. That's 6 total. Well, I could take 2 and spend that to get to one town below, and then I could spend my other die, my lowest remaining die left, and buy a beer, and I would mark that off. I'm going to tick off every time I visit a new brewery. So that's super important. You're going to tick off every time you see a new brewery, mark that off. Some of them are specialty breweries, and so you've got another spot on your player board. When you visit those, you're going to tick that off. If you complete a column, you're going to tick that off because you're going to get extra points. And then you're going to have your own personal goals. You're going to have like a harder one and an easier one. You're going to pick which one you want and discard the other one. And all the cards are explained in the back of the rule book. So again, you're going to be bopping around. Early on, you can kind of go at your own pace. But then as somebody starts to snatch up these goals, because if they get this one, then a new one's going to come out. And so you can see, oh, okay, well, I can try to just do all of these instead, and that'll be the one I need to get. And you're going to know what goal, at least what color goal people have. So you're also going to have that kind of idea, like, okay, what's going on? And yeah, you're going to go around, you're going to drink beer, you're going to visit all these breweries. Some of them are like, you travel the road between, 28 and 15. Some of them are, you visited brewery 17 and brewery 21. So, it's just stuff like that. This one's like you visited 2 specialty breweries. So lots of kind of fun, different ways to score these goals. And I feel like, the nice thing is once somebody has scored one, a new one comes out and they don't need yellow goals anymore. So they can't take anymore. So it's not like, oh, they keep taking all the ones I need. Like, no, they're just going to get the ones they need. Boom, 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 boom. And go from there. Over here, though, you've got these cheese squares or cards. And these cheese have different slices of cheese on them. And that's going to indicate, so if I take that cheese, I'm going to cross off the one that I used because I can only use that one slice of cheese that one time. And then I will do whatever that card says. Now, the cheese actions are all super useful and really handy. And that's why basically taking any of them are negative points. And the more you take, the more negatives you get. And so you really have to be smart about if you use them and when. Another important thing to say is, like, on your turn, you can choose if I took these 2 dice and then the next player takes these 2 dice, then now the next player only has these dice to choose from. So they might take those, and then somebody takes these. Well, now somebody's stuck with a hitchhiking dice. And if they can't move 3 on, like if they're in a spot where 3 isn't good enough, they might be stuck. Now, what you could do is, you could take 1 less die. So normally you'd take 3 dice. So that example was bad. But you could take 1 less die. So you would take 2 die instead. And you can re-roll all the die and then take what you need. If there's fewer than 3 dice left, you basically you pick your travel die that you're going to use. Then you re-roll and you fill out the rest of what you're supposed to get that way. So you can have turns where you get stuck and you're like, oh no, what am I doing? And that's okay. It's going to happen sometimes. But so there's different things you can do, different ways to score. I am not always a huge fan of roll and writes, but I found this one to be pretty fun. I like the theme. And I really, it doesn't feel like you've got to pre-plan so much. And I just don't love that in games where it's like, well, I couldn't get this optimal turn, so now I'm like totally screwed and I don't get to do that. I hate that in games. I want to be able to play, and you're kind of at the mercy of the dice and what are you going to take? What are the people in front of you going to take? And if they take the ones you need, who cares? Pick them up and roll them again and just take 1 less. You're going to take a minimum of 2, so you've always got options. I just really like that. Now, there's definitely some fiddliness to this game. As you're moving around, you've got your little circle, and you're bopping around from place to place, but you need to make sure you are ticking every circle that you're supposed to be ticking when you move. Because if you're like, oh, I took 3 dice and I'm able to move 1, 2, 3 spaces, you need to make sure you tick all 3 of those spaces, and then make sure if you crossed off any specialty breweries, you tick those spaces, and then if you fill a column, make sure you fill those spaces. So there's definitely stuff to keep track. Go slow on your turn just to make sure you're not cheating yourself with points. You are able to go back, and count the spaces and see how many you should have and stuff like that. You can revisit any brewery you want that you've already visited, but you're just not going to check that one off because you've already been there. And you're trying to get to as many unique ones as possible. But you're not like locking yourself in like a snake game where I can't double back. Well, you can. It's just kind of inefficient and maybe not as useful. Game goes on until somebody gets those goals and then they get back. And then at the end of the game, you're going to score your points showing your unticked circle. You're going to score that. You're going to score points for your specialty breweries. Again, your unticked circle and then any columns you filled. Then you're going to score points for your goals. Then you will score points or get negative points based on your cheese, and score points or get negative points based on your eco-friendliness. And then, what was that one? That grapes one. I forget what that, or that's not grapes. It's barley, you dummy. Oh, yeah. Score the points of the first untickled taste and buy tracks. That's that one. It's right there. That icon's right there. They do a nice job of that. And then you're also going to add up your points on where you finished in the race, first, second, third, or somewhere last. You're going to mark down those points, add them all together, you're going to get a final score. It's, once you understand how to play, it's pretty straightforward. They did include like several other language rule books. And I opened it up and I'm like, where are all these rule books? This is the English one. It's the one I needed. It does give you a nice little sort of reminder on the back of how some of the rules work. And so that's pretty straightforward, pretty good. I will say, though, I kind of hate the rule book. There's a couple spelling errors that I found, at least one. And I will say that the iconography on the cards is not always super intuitive. Like this one right here just says like equals 2. Well, 2 what? Like if I visit 2 breweries, I get that? No, it's specialty breweries. And I only know that because I looked it up in here. And that might even be for the column. I mean, it's like really tough when you have 2 or more points on the specialty brewery track. So, because that equal sign is down here, and if you get up to 2 points. Okay, so now it makes sense, but it's not super intuitive. There's a few things that aren't very intuitive that I don't love. Could have been explained a little bit better in the rule book because it's like, oh, you get this when you go to this town. Well, nowhere on here does it tell you what town that is. Now, if you look at the icon on the town and you look at that number, right? If you look at the number, then, oh yeah, that's there. That it matches up. That is what it is. But it takes a little bit of investigating, a little bit of hunting sometimes. So these aren't like damning things that just like ruin the whole game, but it does sort of impede what I would call like the ease of teach, because I know that there are people that I will play this with that even after explaining all the rules, they will come back and be like, well, what's this? What's this? You know, what's that? It's really easy and great when games you can just say, well, reading the card explains the card. That doesn't jive here. And I understand, I really feel like obviously this is, you know, hey, we're going to be language independent. And I think that's great. I think that's great in games. But I just don't know that the iconography is strong enough for it to be, you know, perfect. I like it in this is a game that I will probably have to play many times in a row to have all the iconography down where I don't need to keep referencing the book as to what does that scorecard mean. Some of them are pretty straightforward and some of them I have questions about. And there's a few things here and there that feel like kind of unanswered or ambiguous is probably a better word. But again, not so detrimental until you're playing with somebody that is going to be really funky or a stickler about, well, I need to know exactly what that rule is because how am I supposed, I can't take my turn. You know, it's like, okay, we'll figure it out. So there's a few things I feel like that could be cleaned up in the rule book. But overall, I mean, once you're in and you're playing the game, it's pretty fun. I'm not always the biggest fan of roll and writes, but I love it when one can kind of prove me wrong. And so like this is a game that I would show to my other game friends. I'd play it with them because I'd be comfortable handing them a rule book and being like, I don't know, man, look it up. It's in here, you know. But if I was like teaching this, it's sort of like a family event, which is normally where I like to take kind of roll and writes, especially with a fun theme like this. I don't know that I would do that until I felt very fluent in the rules, because any time that I am consulting a rule book, they are losing interest rapidly. And I don't want to do that to, you know, sort of that lighter fare of gamer that I do play a lot of games with. So, you know, that does sort of limit me a little bit. Now, once you're fluent with it, it's like, fine. You speak it with confidence. You totally understand it and you can help it make sense to them. No problem. But if I am going here to do it constantly, that's a little bit of a negative. Now, again, playing with other gamers, especially gamers that play heavier stuff. Hey, man, take a look. Tell me what you think. That's not going to I don't think impact their experience negatively, because I mean the rules are light enough that it'll take a minute to do. But I also know my family, and they don't want to get bogged down in that minutia. They want to hit the ground running and go. So a little bit of a knock on it for that. But I think that the heavier gamers, the people likely, and I don't know because I haven't played it, but I have to imagine if you liked Belgian Beers Race, you're probably going to like this game. Because thematically you're kind of doing the same thing. And if you enjoyed that theme, like, oh, I don't drink too much beer and don't buy too many bottles because you can't carry them, it's slowing you down, like all that stuff, that all makes sense thematically and is fun and interesting. I guess cheese slows you down because you stop and eat delicious cheese. I don't know why you're getting punished for that, but hey, that's fine. But I like the idea of the goals. I think the way the goals work is really fun. I do like having these cheese cards. I just joked about them, like, oh, why does that hurt you? But having these 6 super powerful and useful abilities that penalize you, but you can use them whenever you want, on your turn, but you can use them. And so that's kind of fun. That's a fun idea. And I felt like I was able to move around the map pretty easily and get to a lot of places pretty easily. And I appreciate that, because you don't want it to feel so cumbersome. It's like, well, now I'm just stuck here and I can't do anything because I got stuck in this stupid corner and I couldn't get the dice I needed. Like, no, it never felt like that. That would have been a huge negative and like a big feel bad moment. This doesn't really have any feel bad moments. Not that I felt in playing it. So that's always a plus. Anyway, so we're going to rate this here at the Board Game Rundown. We give it a rating between 1 and 10. And if there's multiple hosts, we'd average them together. But since it's just me, you're going to get me. So yeah, I think this is like a 7.5. I think if the rule book were a little stronger, the iconography was better, I could definitely see giving this an 8. But as it stands right now, 7.5. It's a little fiddly at times too. It's easy. It can be easy to lose track and not tick off everything you need to tick off, especially the first couple times you're playing. Like, oh, I missed that. It's not too hard to go back and try to count, but also if that grinds the game to a halt, that can be a bad thing. Sometimes, oh, don't go yet. I need to make sure I moved everywhere and I did this all the right way. Not the end of the world. It's also, a 45-minute game tops. But anyways, I enjoyed it. This is a roll and write that I would definitely play and I would definitely recommend. I just would give it sort of some caveats to doing that or before doing that. So that's really all I got to say about it. If you've watched this far, thank you for watching. Please consider being a patron. We have uncut playthrough videos or loosely edited playthrough videos of us playing different games. There'll be early release stuff over there. If you can't or don't want to support us that way, that's fine too. I appreciate you just being in here. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think of Belgian Beers Race, or what was your experience with this? Am I a dummy because the iconography didn't just click? I get it. It happens. Let me know. And yeah, so thanks for watching. And for the Board Game Rundown, I've been Tim.